Welcome back to the App Podcast, your daily hangout for marketing, internet culture, and weird things brands are doing to get attention. Today, I'm joined by someone who works at the intersection of traditional industries and modern content. Dawn Faithfull, comms advisor at the Canadian Real Estate Association and Realtor.ca. She's deep in the world of content creation, social strategy, writing, short form video, you name it, all while working at one of the most recognizable real estate platforms in Canada. So, we're going to talk about how industries like real estate are catching up to creator culture and what role content still plays in building trust today. Dawn, welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Was that intro nice? How do you feel about that intro?
Yeah, that was great. I
Okay,
loved
was that
it.
accurate?
Yeah, that's perfect. I hate
Okay.
writing my own intros, so thank you so much for doing
No
that.
worries. You can just take that and throw it on your LinkedIn bio now.
Amazing, thank you.
Yeah. um, cool. Before we get started, I just want to do like a little ice breaky type question. What's what's a trend that that you've been obsessed with recently across the internet?
Ooh, that's such a fun question. There's so many.
Yeah.
Um, I okay, maybe this is taking it back like a couple months, but something that I loved that I thought was hilarious was when all of these creators who thought their profiles were going to be taken down permanently during like the pending TikTok ban were like spilling so much tea, and I was here for every drop of it. It was crazy. That was, I don't know, that was something to behold. I know that's a couple months old, but it just like popped into my brain.
That yeah, just it was so big and like
Yeah.
people were dropping stuff that was like years old and they were like, hey guys, this thing that I had a beef with this person about 6, 7 years ago, it was all fake. And it was just like everybody pulling back the curtain and it was like such an insane thing to see.
I know. It was crazy. I was
And
like, commitment to the bit.
yeah, that was one thing. And then the fact that like TikTok came back, what, like 13, 14 hours later, and I was like, hey, how y'all doing?
I know. Those
uh,
poor people.
yeah, but I think I don't know if it's because it kind of seems like it's still gonna be banned because I keep getting these like notifications on TikTok where people are they keep saying like, oh, this one person you follow just posted on Lemonade for the first time. So I don't know if
Mhm.
there's something in there. Um, yeah,
Yeah, it's something, it's something. All right. I'm
yeah,
not sure if I was reading it actually in your newsletter or another newsletter, that they're working out a deal with Oracle and it's
yes,
potentially, yeah, okay. Anyway,
yeah,
so I'm not really sure how that's gonna go. I had my guesses when it was happening the first time around, and like they came true for, like you said, 13 hours. So
yeah,
I'm not even happy to be in Canada at that point, and not have to totally worry about it. However, and our audiences very fortunately are also in Canada, so really nice to have that to fall back on. But
yeah,
again, like for the creator economy, it's not fun to hear
yeah.
about.
No, it's gonna be tough because I think the initial thing was that like the United States gave them like a 90-day like extension thing. So like it
Hmm.
was never like the ban is lifted. It was just like you got 90 days to sell it to some person in the US. So now I don't know. I mean, there's also like a ton of politics over it, which is so fun. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting to see too, like how political it's gotten and how the oversight of this platform that was so new and so non-traditional and so authentic is now falling into corporate oversight, or not even corporate oversight, government oversight for what? Just their country? Like, is that going
Yeah,
to implicate the rest of us? I don't know. And that's something that, we're always adapting in this industry, but it's like, one more thing, come on.
yeah. We need more of those, right? Okay,
Yeah,
so
like if the last 5 years haven't been enough.
yeah, yeah. This next decade is gonna be. Okay, so let's start here. Real estate marketing hasn't always been known for creativity. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but in the last year or two, feels like the content game has leveled up to a new ante. Agents are on TikTok, listings are being turned into narratives. We're seeing more personality breakthrough. What has changed since?
I think, exactly to your point, there's a lot more people who are inherently creative that started a little while ago, a couple years ago, pandemic happened and people had to adapt to a new, very digital world. Not that any of it was actually new, but it forced them to use the tools that were already out there to communicate in ways that they weren't communicating previously. So it's become something of a like there's realtor influencers in like this genre, and you see them when you go to these conferences, and it's kind of funny, but they're creatives at heart and they're just doing something that they love doing, and it's inspiring other people to do the same thing. So I love to see it, and I love that the industry is going that way. But on the flip side, there's some people that are really good at making videos and making people laugh, but maybe they're not the most experienced or most knowledgeable realtor. So it's quite a balance to strike. And it's all about like the consumer has to still do their due diligence the same way that they've always done.
Yeah.
But I think it's fun, and I don't really see it being like nefarious in any way. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's good for me.
Yeah, just on that, I feel like, yeah, like maybe I'd say like 5, 6 years ago, a lot of these like more, I guess, traditional industries were looked at as just that, like a traditional industry that you couldn't like have fun with or you couldn't go a little crazy with. But now
Mm-hmm.
it's turned every industry into like, no, this can actually like there's more to it than what the eye sees. And like it's not as boring as you'd have it like in your mind. Like it's not it's I feel like the stereotypes are dead for a lot of these industries. And I
Yes.
think I think you see it with a lot of these like especially these like personalities. I don't know if this is like an accurate thing to say, but like everybody's trying to be like the socialite. Everybody's trying to be the, dare I say, Kim Kardashian of their industry.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
Yeah.
so, I mean, love it or hate it, I think it makes things a bit more fun. It makes people, it opens up to a whole new audience, and a lot of people that just never had a eye on that industry are now looking at it like, whoa, there's this whole other big whale that we don't. I don't know what
Yeah.
you're trying to say, but
No,
really like,
no, you're absolutely right. And what's really cool about it too is it kind of levels the playing field. Whereas
yeah,
before, like, especially in real estate, the traditional forms of advertising are so expensive now. Like print, billboards, out of home, that's so expensive in comparison to doing organic social media and then seeing what performs for you, seeing what you feel confident doing, and then just keeping on with that. Like do more of it and then learn how to do advertising, learn how to do that kind of thing. And those tools are so much more readily available and a lot easier to use than they used to be. So bringing it to the masses and making it something that people are actually is more easily accessible to people is
yeah,
not a bad thing. That's never going to be a bad thing.
no,
So I'm with you, and I
yeah,
really like that it's been able to do that.
yeah, and I think that like I do want to ask since you are in this industry, was there like a certain time that you saw that shift happen from like traditional to this new age media format that we go?
For me personally, like in my own experience, I really saw it early 2021.
Hmm.
It
Just after
was,
COVID.
yeah, like it was, what can people do? Because we're getting used to this new way of the world. And what can people do that is different? And, in my position, it's also about not getting left behind. So you want to be one of those people that's out there putting out content, doing new things, trying new things, experimenting. Because if you're not, then again, you're getting left behind, and you're gonna it's gonna be so much more work farther down the line to catch up.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that like the really interesting part about like the real estate industry in a holistic manner is that how I don't know if this is like an impossible question to answer, but how would you balance like the how do I say this? How do you balance pushing for like the crazy creative content while still maintaining like the professional side of the industry? Is
Yeah.
there a way?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that I kind of have to do most of the time
Yeah,
because the fun stuff is always going to perform well. Like
yeah,
it just does better, and you don't want to be too salesy, you don't want to be too pushy. There's always that like 80-20 rule of like 80% of your content is for the person that you're putting it out to see,
yeah,
and the other 20% is for yourself. But at the same time, there's also a way of integrating those two things in a way that feels a little bit more natural. And I think a lot more brands are doing that now in a way that's very creative. And I
yeah,
love to see it. It's really cool to be able to use these trends and then apply them to your niche and apply them to your market or your audience or whatever it is. And it doesn't feel forced. Like it doesn't feel like you're just watching a traditional ad. So I think that that's like it's really cool to see. People are so
yeah,
creative.
yeah. It's yeah. Is there are there any like red lines or any hard no's or something you've
Mm.
seen that you're like, oh, I wouldn't do that if I was you?
Yeah, okay, there's a really fine line to balance as well
Mhm.
between like if you market to everybody, you're marketing to nobody,
Yeah,
but you have to be able to say, okay, I know where I'm drawing my line in the sand in terms of what I believe personally and what I want people to know about me professionally. So I think that those are the lines that you don't cross. Like, if you are comfortable in your business and you're not looking for anybody else to be a client,
yeah,
then sure, draw all those lines as much as you want. Like people are out there and they're so successful doing that. But if you're somebody who's still trying to build your brand, build your business, whatever, I don't think that's the time to do it. Like
yeah,
be someone that other people can project themselves onto or relate to as much as possible. And if you start drawing those lines in the sand with like moral values or political values or any of those types of things, it becomes harder and harder for people to do that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And yeah, and I think the whole like I think the big shift that I've seen, especially with these with this new age format that we got, is that it stopped, especially like the thing that you highlighted was it's not as salesy anymore. It's not as in your face anymore, and it's more just like telling a story. And it could be like the craziest story ever, but if it's done perfectly, it serves as a perfectly written ad. And I think
Yeah.
that like it's so hard to nail, but once you've got
Yeah.
that, I think like you just can't be beaten. And I think
Yeah.
that spans across not just like a video, it could span across like a whole profile. So like, I mean,
Mhm.
like off the top of my head, the one that like, comes to mind and super obvious is like Duolingo. So like,
Yeah.
I like obviously they're unbeatable in content. Like they're just on
Yeah.
a whole other level,
Yeah.
and it's just this idea that they have this little corner of the internet like held down so tight that God, I mean, I don't know. Like if I want to learn a new language, that's the one person I go to.
Hmm.
And I wonder if you guys would think about it in the same way in your industry. Like, is the goal to be the first like platform to think of when I think real estate?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And right now, the way it works in Canada is a little bit different than anywhere else. So
Mhm.
the main platform, realtor.ca, is the only platform, or sorry, I'm biased, but it is the platform that has the most active listings in Canada, like, period.
Yeah.
And it always has been because we cooperate with boards and associations across the country who share their listings with their local listing sites, and then that towers up. So it works in a way that's different from every other brand out there, but there's so many now that are newer that are fighting hard for market share and they want it badly, and they're doing the things that we're talking about. They're doing the new content strategies, they're doing video, they're doing educational pieces that are meant to like sell without selling.
Yeah.
So it is becoming a lot more competitive in the space. And like, yeah, absolutely. You want to be that number one brand that people think of. And right now we are, knock on wood. But you have to remain competitive because it moves so fast.
For sure. So just on realtor.ca real quick, do you think
Hmm.
like I'm trying to think. Okay, so with Realtor.ca, are people more likely to trust the content from an individual agent or a national platform like Realtor.ca, and how do you tackle that?
That's a really good question. So, typically, a lot of people, it's like anything, right? It's like influencers.
Yeah,
People trust influencers like they trust recommendations from their friends and family now.
yeah,
So, you can establish a personality like an influencer would, then you have a really good chance of being able to gain someone's trust. But at the same time, realtors do that really, really well.
yeah,
And that's why they're good at their jobs half the time is because they're so good with people and they're so good with bridging the gaps in knowledge between the client and the transaction of real estate. So it's something where it's awesome to see these people be able to put that together because
yeah,
we want that. We want reputation for realtors to be growing and being everything that it should be. And that honestly only does us benefit. Like, we don't compete with these people. We want these people to succeed. We want to support these people in every way, empower them to do better in their content or whatever it is, or give them the materials to do that. So I think it's kind of cool. Like, you can model a lot of this after influencers. Like, if you find someone you really like, and you resonate with them, and that person has a good chunk of your audience, use that as inspiration.
for sure. Yeah, I, don't, I just thought of it now. I feel like real estate agents are the OG personal brands even before social media. Like, I
Yeah.
just that just came to me now. I don't know if that's just like a
Yeah.
an obvious thing, but yeah, I think that yeah, and like even like before everybody was on social media, like think like the billboards or like whatever, like their name is always as big as the property's address, and like
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's so
It's
interesting.
kind of cool. No, it's really
Yeah,
cool. And like, I love when we get to the opportunity to work with people that have been in the industry for like 30 years and they're
yeah,
telling me about all these billboards and mail out campaigns. And I'm like,
yeah.
I've been around, but not 30 years. So
It's okay, cool. One thing I've noticed, especially with these more like quote unquote legacy industries, is that once they get the content flowing, the next question is always, should we launch a podcast? Which leads us into the next bit. So I know podcasting is something you may be interested in, especially from a content and brand building angle. You're not necessarily hosting one, but I do want to get your perspective on how podcasting fits into a brand's content mix, especially when most people are consuming everything and damn near everything in like 30-second clips now.
yeah,
So,
from my perspective, I produce our podcast.
oh, okay,
So I do topics and guests and talking points and all of that fun stuff, edits on the back end and all that, you know.
yeah,
But I don't host it. We have like a Canadian celebrity host. He's an actor and comedian,
oh,
and
nice,
he's great. He's honestly
yeah,
great. A pleasure to work with, and yeah, it's really cool to have an association or like a brand podcast, but I mean, you would know this. It's so different than just those people who like can sit and talk about nothing. It's like I have a very narrow subject matter window. So how can I pull out every single last piece of that window and keep making content month after month, week after week? It's it's fun, but it makes you think outside of the box. It makes you be creative.
no, you someone gets me finally. You know what it feels like, honestly. Even like from a more like marketing podcast, there's only so much you can speak on, especially
Hmm.
because um, we try to do this as a daily podcast. So just coming up with like new topics or new questions, new talking points, and it's always like a race to the next new thing. And
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, it's the race with no finish line, honestly. You just keep running and running and running.
Yeah, like one thing's done and you're on to the next immediately. Like, you don't have
Yeah,
time to celebrate the win you just had. You're like, yeah,
no.
we hit 1 million listens. That's great. Like, what now?
Yeah, yeah. What's the new topic? What's the next
Yeah.
question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
what do you think podcasting does better than any other format? Like, why? I mean, you'd think that with like a lot of TV and radio dying, you'd think the format of podcasting wouldn't be thriving as much as it is now. So, what do you think it is about podcasting?
I think it's the okay, well, it's a lot of things, honestly. It's the diversity of topic and how
Mhm.
readily available all of those things are at your fingertips at any moment. So, the rise of streaming services showed us how much people want that. Like, we want to be able to just go in, find exactly what we want, and then watch or listen to it. And everybody can complain about, oh, well, I sit on the couch and I spend more time looking for something to watch than I actually do watching the thing. It's like, sure, but that's your choice. Like, you could have
That's a
cable
good
and
problem
just,
to have, I feel like.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's not a
yeah,
bad problem to have.
yeah.
But
Oh, okay.
yeah, I think too, like, it's also the way that you consume it. So you can consume just audio, you can consume video, you can sit down and watch just a podcast, you can be listening to
Yeah,
something while you're cooking, doing dishes, exercising, whatever it is. So it's the medium that kind of works for everyone, but in a
yeah,
different way for everyone.
yeah. Okay. So, do you think most brands are launching podcasts for the right reasons, or do you feel like it's more of a content checkbox at this point? You can be honest.
Yeah. I think I think that changed really quick. I think we went over a threshold of brands just launching podcasts to launch a podcast because they think they have to. But I do think there's a lot of people out there that do have a voice and do have something really interesting to say that should launch a podcast that haven't. So I don't want to discourage people from launching their own podcast because I really think there's voices out there that we need to be hearing. But I think it's like social media, like you have to be intentional with your consumption. And when those things do better, it indicates to the industry or to the people out there that want to do something that that's something that's going to be successful. So maybe I should do that because I have a wealth of knowledge in that subject or whatever it is.
Even yeah, because like I don't know if you think about it like this, but for us, like we're trying to be like the marketing hub, and like if you think marketing podcast, it's almost like the Duolingo thing I just spoke on earlier. Like marketing podcast, you think of yeah podcast, or you think of like real estate podcast, and it's the podcast that you produce, and I think that obviously that is the goal, right? But I think
Hmm.
once that goal is hit, you're like invincible almost.
Yeah.
Like it's yeah.
Yeah.
And not just in terms of like monetization. I'm thinking more like brand awareness, more yeah, just reach honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we all know one podcast that's our go-to for whatever it is.
Yeah,
And sometimes like you'll talk to somebody who I don't know, they do what we do
yeah,
and their go-to podcast is like the most random thing you've ever heard. It's like about hedgehogs. I
yeah.
don't even know how that came out of my brain, but but it's like, you know what? Go off. Like you have a thing for hedgehogs. Like I love that for you. But
Yeah,
there's got to be someone making that content for
yeah,
those people.
yeah. If there's demand, there's always going to be supply.
Yeah.
What speaking of what is your go-to podcast? Can I ask?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Um okay, it's called Sounds Like a Cult.
Ooh, I feel like I've
And
heard of it.
okay, they dig into I think it's the everyday cults we all follow.
Yeah,
So they have the cult of I don't know, like Spin Studios. They have the cult of the royal family, the cult of Trader Joe's, the cult of like everything you can possibly think of, The Bachelor, and they kind of dissect them into how dangerous is this? How nefarious is this? How
yeah,
lighthearted is this? Do you really care? Whatever.
yeah.
But I think it's really funny because they do it from a point of it's a little bit of humor, it's a little bit of knowledge, so it's fun to listen to.
Nice. And you're like you'd say you're like an avid listener of that podcast. Like, is that something you consume? You don't miss an episode, kind of thing.
No, I've heard every single one. I somehow stumbled onto it in 2020. They had like four
Okay.
episodes out, and I
Yeah.
listened to every single one of them. And ever since, I've been a weekly listener.
Damn. OG, huh? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a fun one though.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Even on that, like that thing you just said with like, it's like the most random topics. Like, I like the podcast I consume the most, which is like almost a little bit embarrassing to say, is a podcast dedicated fully on football or soccer kits and like shirt history and like
Oh,
vintage stuff. Like that's how like deep the rabbit hole I am, and
that's
that's the one
niche.
podcast I don't miss out on. And like you'd think that is niche, but like they get like at least 10,000 viewers every video, and it's like
Amazing.
it's cool to see that from a 7 billion population. Me and 10,000 other people are like in this like little club together,
That's
um,
true.
and not just that. I think the with the podcast thing, you just get so personal with it. Like you get to know
Hmm.
the person so much. Call it parasocial relationships. I call it fandom. I don't know. But
Yeah.
especially when their community engagement is really strong. Like the comment section is always a conversation,
Yes.
and especially when people are engaged with the content and stuff, it's not just like people like putting in like a throwaway comment just across the thing. uh,
Hmm.
like people would like say timestamp like 23:36 they put the quote and be like, no, actually this is factually not correct technically, blah, blah, blah. But it just shows how like strong that like there's no need for somebody to click open a video, watch it, open the comment section, comment, and then hit send. But that's how
Yeah.
strong the power of like podcasting is.
No, you're right. It's one of those things where we've all sought it out, so we all know that we're in this community.
Yeah,
And it, like you said, yeah, it builds that relationship and it builds trust. And because it's a little bit longer form than a lot of the content we consume now,
yeah,
it gives you a little bit more of a window into that person or into that topic or whatever it is. And it's funny because like you see these memes online or whatever that are, wow, I thought I was the only one experiencing this feeling.
yeah.
And then 40,000 other people have liked this post, or 2 million people have liked this post. And you're like, wow, I'm not alone.
No, there
Like,
is no original thought. There is no original experience. As
no,
crazy as that experience or thought could be, there's always like 15,000 people on Reddit that have had the same exact question, which is insane.
I don't know how it exists. We're all
Yeah.
so unoriginal.
Yeah, no, we're not that special. Um,
Yeah, that's a good reminder.
yeah. Just on that real quick, on the podcasting thing, I don't know if this is a bit of a controversial thing, but a lot of these podcasts that I've seen on TikTok have these like um so it's the set of a podcast and it's basically just podcast clips, but there is no like long form podcast to watch. So how
Hmm.
do you feel about the rise of the fake podcast clips?
This is this is a controversial one inside my heart because because I think it's so smart. But as
Yeah.
someone who produces a podcast, I'm like, ooh, you lazy
You
person.
hacks. You
Yeah,
hacks.
yeah, exactly. You
Yeah.
wish you were doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is so smart. So I can't hate it. I can't hate it. I have full respect for it.
Yeah.
I have fallen for it on multiple
Mm.
occasions. So that's on me. But I
It
think
worked.
it worked. Like it's good
Yeah.
marketing. But then you see the ones that pop up and it's like two people talking over microphones about like diapers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this isn't happening. Like that
Yeah. There's
you guys
no
took
way.
it one step too far.
Yeah. 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 Is
Yeah.
it is that something you'd ever consider doing with the podcast that you produce? Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, we've talked about it.
Yeah.
What like our podcast is also recorded virtually for the most part.
Yeah.
Like we're almost never in person. So we
Mm.
do clip a lot of quotes and one-liners and stuff,
Yeah.
and we'll use them on our social media. But because it's a brand podcast, our social media is the whole brand. And
Yeah.
then there's a couple bits and pieces in here of the podcast. So it's kind of about a content mix. And if we can't overpower it too much with the podcast as much as I would love to, because it's great content and it's educational and it's exactly what our audience is looking for. So I love it, and I really do think I think it's smart. I think it's, like you said, it's personal. It's somebody talking to somebody else, and you feel like you're part of the conversation, even though you're just kind of an
Yeah.
outsider. But
Yeah.
you don't feel that way, so I like it.
Yeah, honestly, for our podcast, it's something we've considered doing. We've spoken about multiple times, but I think that like you have to nail the talking points. It's all in the like the pre-planning of it. Is like that's where the gold is. And if you don't have that nailed down, then it is worth having a 30-minute conversation and picking out the organic like best bits rather than sitting down trying to do two bits that are like good when they're not really that good. So
Yep. No, I
yeah,
agree. And on that exact point, we used to do audio only for the podcast because we started the podcast in 2020,
yeah,
and it wasn't exactly like video wasn't a huge thing yet for podcasting.
yeah,
But when we had audio only podcasts, we would have the guest set up their phone and record, like I said, like you just said, a bit
yeah,
with the host. So it's like the
yeah.
host would ask a question, the guest would give an answer, but it's to their phone. It's not like part of the actual podcast. So if you watched it all the way through, you would never see that bit, but
No,
it was the
yeah,
same like theme of content that they were talking
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Yeah.
It
So
almost like yeah, it almost serves like a trailer.
it does, but it
Yeah,
kind of it never feels as authentic. It never
no,
feels as
yeah,
real
yeah,
because
no,
it's not.
yeah. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, we did give it a go a couple times here, like that, just like, and just on some like experimental stuff. I'm just like,
Oh yeah.
it's like we've got like 15 minutes for lunchtime, and I'm like grabbing the nearest coworker to my right, and I'm like, hey, let's try this, and I would like literally
Yeah.
give them like a script that they're reading. But yeah, it's you need really, really good actors, and not to put any of my coworkers to shame, but it is tough, honestly, and I've also struggled with it. It's so hard reading a line and making it sound like it is coming from you. You need to be like an
Mhm.
insanely good actor, improv
Mhm.
person. I don't know.
No, it's true. No, you literally hit the nail on the head. I know people who are actors who have been hired to do exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they're making
that's crazy.
commercials essentially.
Yeah,
So that's the bit. That's what they've been hired to do, and that's what they're paid to do. So you're exactly
yeah,
right. It's an actor.
yeah. Scary. It's scary times, honestly, but
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe
Especially when
the
you
next.
factor,
Yeah,
oh, sorry, I was going to say, especially when you
yeah,
factor
yeah,
AI into that.
yeah.
And then you're not even talking to a real person. You're not talking to a host. You're not talking to anybody.
It's gotten so big, especially like oh this AI thing I can speak on for 7 hours onto. But I don't know if you saw this. There's a video that recently blew up, maybe like a month or two ago, where like a person had two AIs, like voice activated AIs, speaking to each other, and they had like an organic conversation for like 10, 15 minutes, and then at the very end they just started making um, like weird beepy sounds and stuff. But like for the first 15 minutes though, it was like a coherent conversation between two people. One's got like a British
Wow.
accent, one's got like a it's
That's pretty
it's insane.
good. That's pretty good. It was like when Spotify tried to do it for their most recent
Yes.
Spotify Wrapped, and then they were
Yep.
giving you this little 5 minute snippet of like your Spotify Wrapped podcast, and it
Yep.
was it was those two people talking, and I was like, I don't think I like this. I don't
No.
I feel uneasy about this.
It's so Black Mirror coded. It's insane. It's
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And
It's scary.
if you don't realize or you're not in tune to thinking about it, it's so easy to miss.
Yeah. Yeah.
It comes back to that like consuming content intentionally, and I will beat that nail into the ground because
Yeah.
we're just not prepped to do that.
Yeah.
We're there's yeah, it's a big
Yeah.
gap.
Even with the whole like this like the fact that like you can or can't tell if it's AI. Like a lot of the stuff that I see now, I'm like, is this AI or is it not AI? And
Yeah.
like, I'd only like you'd have to sit, yeah, like the person whoever sent it to me would have to tell me it's AI, and I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, now that makes sense. But had I not had that like piece of information, I could literally look at a video and be like, yeah, it's just a really well made video. So it's yeah,
Yep. Yep.
it's freaky.
Uh,
It's freaky.
a colleague of mine made a video and he showed it to me and I was like, this looks like you, but like AI you. And he was like,
Yeah,
what? And I was like, I don't know, but something feels weird about it.
it's
Anyways,
uncanny.
yeah, it was. It was uncanny and it was, and I knew it was him. So now I'm like, am I overthinking this?
Yeah, are we having
It's a,
psychosis? What's going on?
it's a weird world we live
Yeah,
in.
yeah, honestly. Don, I just have a couple questions I just want to blast by you if you don't mind. So,
hmm
question numero uno is, what's one piece of advice you'd give to somebody, be it someone that's working in a more traditional industry and wants to start making content, or just in general, what's your like one motto?
Uh, I try to instill this in anyone that I help make content. Take a breath and then just go. Just start. Just do it because you're never going to get over that, like, oh, it's cringy. Oh, like I'm not confident. Oh, whatever. You're never going to get over that until you just start. So, really, just start. You can try, you can fail, you can throw spaghetti against the wall, but you have to test and like be intentional about it. Like, don't just throw things up and then never look at the performance and never see how it's going to go and never, look at your analytics. That's really important too, but you have to start to get there.
Yeah.
So I think that's my one thing that I always
Yeah,
try
that's
and
really
tell
good. Well said.
people.
Yeah, because the thing is like time is gonna pass regardless. So do something
Hmm.
with it. So well
Yes,
said.
exactly.
Yeah. Um, and the question number two is, who's someone you'd like to nominate to be on the podcast next? Who do you think would have a interesting perspective?
Ooh, I'm trying to think of someone fun.
I
What?
am sorry for putting you on the spot. I probably should have like
No,
run you these questions before, but
that's
yeah,
okay. I
yeah,
immediately off the top of my head, do you follow or use or know HubSpot?
yes,
Okay. I read their blog all the time. I think their content experts are great. I don't have a name off the top of my head, but I love a lot of the stuff that they put out, and I think they're really
yeah,
knowledgeable. Um, Maybe one of those people.
yeah, yeah. HubSpot team, if you see this, we're
Yeah.
coming for you. Perfect. Don, where can people follow you or keep up with what you are working on?
I have a LinkedIn. It's Dawn Faithfull, Faithful with two L's. And I have an Instagram. It might be private, it might be public.
Depends who requests it. um,
No, I've honestly been making it public and then making it private and then making it public and making it private because I do
yeah,
content as a job, so I don't
yeah,
quite do so much for my own personal self.
yeah.
But yeah, you can find me on TikTok, Dawn Faithful. Dawn
Yeah,
Faithful
it
everywhere.
is just one thing. I know we're like ending this, but just this one thing. Like, I also have struggled with this. So like, like over the last year or so, I've been posting on TikTok like with no second thought whatsoever. But then
Mm,
Instagram is just a whole other ballgame. Like,
yeah.
I've been private on Instagram for like the longest, except for like the last 2 months. I just turned it public. But like, posting, I haven't. I'm yet to post my first reel, and that weight of posting the first reel is just like I could post 50,000 TikTok before I post a reel, which is
Yeah.
it's really interesting.
No, it's super interesting. And I'm right there with you. I've posted a few reels again, like back when oh no, my profile was even private back then. But I was just
Yeah,
playing around with the format. I was playing
yeah,
around with the tools and how to use them and stuff like that because I find that interesting. So, like, well, what better place to test it than just with
yeah,
myself?
yeah,
But yeah, I do overthink Instagram. I think a lot of people
yeah,
overthink Instagram. When it comes to my personal self, yeah, I do. But when it comes to the
yeah,
brand, I'm like, no, I'm confident in this content. This is
yeah,
good.
fully.
I know this is
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Perfect. Don, thank you so much for coming on. This was such a cool perspective, especially from someone who's operating at a national brand level, but clearly gets where content is heading. And for everyone listening, if you like this episode, send it to someone who still thinks brochures are a content strategy. Like the video, subscribe to the newsletter. I will see you tomorrow. Peace.
Thank you.